Forget sleek curves and carbon fiber. These cars don't care about beauty, they care about brutality. A roll cage, an engine, and a dream. That's all it takes to out-accelerate a Ferrari. Born in garages, banned in countries, and worshipped by lunatics, these aren't just vehicles, they're defiance on 4 tubes. Welcome to the world of ExoCars. Machines so light, so wild, they make million-dollar supercars look like bloated dinosaurs. The origin of ExoCars. Before ExoCars turned into garage-built monsters and track day legends, one man accidentally wrote their DNA. His name was Colin Chapman, the genius behind Lotus, and his obsession wasn't power, it was lightness. He believed speed didn't come from adding more, it came from removing everything that didn't matter. In the 1950s, Chapman built the Lotus 7, a car so simple it looked unfinished. No roof, no doors, no luxury, just a small Ford engine bolted to a lightweight frame and 4 wheels barely bigger than dinner plates. It was ugly, raw, and utterly brilliant. Here's the genius part. Chapman didn't just sell the car, he sold it as a kit. Buy the parts, bolt them together in your garage, and avoid Britain's brutal purchase taxes. It wasn't just clever engineering, it was rebellion through paperwork. The result? A 500-kilogram rocket that could corner like nothing else on the road. Drivers said it felt like strapping yourself to a go-kart with license plates. The Lotus 7 wasn't built to impress, it was built to humiliate heavier cars twice its price. And that philosophy, simplify, then add lightness, became the holy scripture of ExoCars. Without Chapman, there'd be no Ariel Atom, no Exomotive, no Goblin. Just a world of heavy cars chasing horsepower and losing to physics. Because the moment Chapman proved that less weight beats more power, the idea spread like wildfire. All around the world, car nuts began asking the same dangerous question. What if we took everything off a car that isn't speed? The rise of modern ExoCars. For decades, the Lotus 7's blueprint sat quietly in garages and backyards, inspiring tinkerers, dreamers, and a few mad scientists with welding torches. But by the 2000s, those homegrown ideas evolved into something far more dangerous and far more professional. One of the first modern ExoCars to hit the streets was the Mills Extreme Vehicles Rocket. Launched in 2007, it wasn't some rough backyard project cobbled together with spare tubing. This was an engineered rebellion, a factory-built skeleton designed for the road, open chassis, exposed suspension arms, a roll cage you could see from a mile away. It looked like it had escaped from a video game. Underneath that steel web sat a screaming 4-cylinder engine with a power-to-weight ratio that could embarrass Ferraris. Because when your car weighs less than a Harley-Davidson touring bike, even a modest motor becomes a missile. The Rocket was proof that less could be engineered to perfection, and that proof lit a fuse. Enter the Ariel Atom. If the Lotus 7 was the grandfather of the movement, the Atom was its rebellious grandchild who showed up in the early 2000s and said, "Watch this." Built around a tubular exoskeleton powered by Honda's legendary K20 engine, the Atom didn't just push the exo philosophy, it launched it into mainstream culture. 0 to 60 in under 3 seconds. That's faster than some hypercars, and it did it while looking like a giant go-kart on steroids. TV shows couldn't resist it. Reviewers called it terrifying, exhilarating, and the most honest car on Earth. Because there were no electronics, no traction control, no stability assist, just you, a steering wheel, and the raw laws of physics waiting to punish every mistake. From there, the idea snowballed. Car culture embraced the madness. Online forums filled with builders chasing that same adrenaline fix, stripping donor cars down to their bones, and crafting custom exoskeletons that look like science projects gone rogue. By the mid-2000s, ExoCar wasn't just a niche hobby, it had become its own culture. Part motorsport, part art project, part open defiance of automotive excess. And the message was clear. While the rest of the world was adding more tech, more screens, and more weight, the Exo movement doubled down on what mattered most. Connection. Every vibration, every turn, every ounce of fear and thrill. Nothing filtered, nothing softened, nothing between you and the road. The off-road revolution, Exomotive, Goblin, and the dune buggy DNA. By now, ExoCars had proven one thing. You don't need luxury or a badge to dominate the asphalt. But then, some lunatics looked at those skeletal street rockets and asked a new question. What if we took this madness off-road? Enter Exomotive, the Atlanta-based company that decided street legal was just a suggestion. Their mission: take the same lightweight open-frame chaos of the Ariel Atom and teach it to fly over dirt. Imagine the same bare-bones tube frame, but now jacked up with lifted suspensions, reinforced shocks, and a wide stance that chews through mud and ruts without folding in half. They built cars meant to launch off jumps, splash through rivers, and slide across the desert with a grin. And the best part? You didn't need a monster engine to have fun. Drop a Mazda Miata drivetrain into a space frame, add knobby tires, and suddenly you've got a desert toy that can out-hustle dune buggies costing 3 times as much. Exomotive didn't just build cars, they built chaos kits for grown-up kids with power tools. But they weren't alone. Brazilian builders like Duo XO started taking the Exo idea global, crafting machines that looked like Formula racers that escaped from the paddock. Every design screamed function over comfort. Sharp angles, exposed frames, no interiors, just pure mechanical honesty. Then came Texas pride in the form of the DF Goblin. Born from the bones of humble Chevy Cobalts, this kit was what happens when backyard engineering meets NASA-level obsession. You tear down your old commuter, toss the boring bits, and rebuild it into a cage on wheels. The result? A 300 horsepower street-legal death wish that handles like a fighter jet on asphalt. And while these Exo kits dominated tracks and dirt trails, their spirit wasn't new. They shared the same DNA as the VW Beetle dune buggies of the 1960s and 70s. Cars that turned fun into a lifestyle. Strip it, cage it, make it light. That was the mantra then, and ExoCars just brought that ethos roaring into the modern age. Even Myers-Manx, the OG Dune buggy brand, joined the evolution, rolling out electric versions so you can silently terrorize the sand while sipping coconut water. It was official. From deserts to drag strips, ExoCars had escaped their cages. They weren't just cars anymore, they were mechanical anarchy made legal. The reality check, safety, physics, and why most people shouldn't build one. For all their brilliance, ExoCars live on a knife's edge between genius and stupidity. Because here's the truth no one on YouTube thumbnails likes to admit. If you build one wrong, it's not a car, it's a missile with seats. When you strip away body panels, airbags, and crumple zones, there's nothing left between you and the laws of physics. Every weld, every joint, every piece of tubing is carrying the stress of acceleration, cornering, and braking. Get it wrong, even slightly, and that beautiful cage can fold faster than a lawn chair in a hurricane. A proper ExoCar isn't just a skeleton with an engine stuffed in, it's a space frame, a perfectly calculated web of steel that manages stress and balance down to the millimeter. If you cheap out on materials or mess up your weld heat, the car won't forgive you. There's no bodywork to hide behind, no airbags to bail you out, no electronics to save your mistakes. And then there's the aerodynamics problem. With no body panels to cut through the air, most ExoCars punch a hole big enough to swallow a minivan. At high speeds, you'll feel it. Buffeting, drag, and a kind of instability that makes triple digits feel like a horror movie. Without wings or splitters doing their job, stability starts to vanish. Sure, you'll rocket off the line, but once you hit highway speeds, you'll swear you're piloting a shopping cart with a jet engine strapped to it. And yet, that's the magic and the madness. You're not buying comfort, you're buying clarity. Every sound, every vibration, every mistake is yours alone. When something goes wrong, it's not a computer's fault, it's yours. In Europe, these machines face an even harsher reality. Tight safety laws and emissions rules have made road-legal ExoCars nearly extinct. You might build the perfect machine only to realize it'll never leave the track. Meanwhile, in the US, you can practically weld a roll cage to a lawn chair, slap a VIN from a donor Miata on it, and, depending on your state, walk out of the DMV with plates. That freedom is intoxicating and dangerous, because the ExoCar isn't about being safe, it's about feeling alive. The legacy of ExoCars and why chasing lightness will never end. At their core, ExoCars aren't about looks. They aren't about luxury, comfort, or even sanity. They're about chasing one impossible idea, purity through simplicity. Every time an engineer welds together a new frame, every time a garage builder strips one more panel away, they're paying tribute to Colin Chapman's obsession with lightness. Because long before supercars bragged about horsepower, Chapman proved something the industry still hates to admit. Speed isn't about what you add, it's about what you take away. That same principle runs through every ExoCar ever built. Whether it's a $70,000 Ariel Atom, or a homemade DF Goblin, every one of them shares the same DNA, fewer parts, more feeling. They don't isolate you from the road, they hand it to you raw and unfiltered. Every bump, every shudder, every heartbeat of the engine, transmitted straight through your bones. And in an age where cars drive themselves, where everything has a touchscreen, and where the word performance usually means software update, ExoCars remind us what driving used to mean. Not convenience, not comfort, but connection. They're not for everyone, and that's the point. They don't care about mass appeal or market share. They exist for the few who still believe driving should feel a little dangerous.